Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Tuesday, September 8th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. Trainee doctors who've been on strike against the government's medical reform policies return to work today. However, conflict is likely to continue as the two sides remain at odds over the state's once postponed medical licensing exams. South Korea reports 136 new COVID-19 cases Tuesday as the country remains at a heightened social distancing level of 2.5. Authorities say the level could be lowered if the number of daily cases drop back to double digits. South Korea's finance ministry announced it will pre-distribute a total of 60,000 public housing unit subscriptions by 2022 as part of measures to meet housing demand. Our top story this morning, thousands of trainee doctors who've been on strike against the government's medical reform policies have returned to work. However, conflict is likely to continue as the state's once postponed medical licensing exams start today. Only 14% of medical students have applied to take the test, with doctors demanding it be pushed back again. Our Min Soo-kyun reports.
Trainee doctors returned to work on Tuesday morning, but medical students who protest the planned health reforms by refusing to sign up for their medical license exams have now missed the deadline to apply. Out of 3,172 test takers, only 14% have signed up for the 2021 Korean medical license examination. This means some 2,700 students will be unable to sit their tests. Yet officials are adamant that the medical exam goes ahead as planned.
The exam will take place as scheduled. We have no plans to re-extend the deadline nor accept additional applications.
There is concern that this would leave a shortage of licensed young doctors across the country. Interns and residents at general hospitals warn that if the government does not come up with a solution within 2 weeks, they will head for another strike. The Korean Medical Association also supported that decision, saying that they will void the early agreement with the government and ruling party if there are no plans for medical students. Min Soo-kyun, Arirang News.
South Korea reported 136 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, staying below the 200 mark for the past 6 days. Of the new infections, 120 were transmitted locally, mostly concentrated in the greater Seoul area, while other 16 were from overseas. This brings the total number of infections nationwide to over 21,000. 5 more people have died of the virus, bringing the death toll to 341. The nation has been observing the so-called level 2.5 social distancing for the past week. Authorities say the level could be lowered if the number of daily cases drop back to double digits. The head of the WHO is warning the world must be better prepared for the next pandemic, saying COVID-19 won't be the last one. He also called on countries to invest in public health to prepare for any future events. Our Lee Seung-jae has the details.
The World Health Organization's Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus urged the world on Monday to be better prepared for the next pandemic that hits the world.
This will not be the last pandemic. History teaches us that outbreaks and pandemics are a fact of life. But when the next pandemic comes, the world must be ready, more ready than it was this time.
The WHO chief added that while many countries have taken enormous strides in medicine, too many have neglected basic public health systems, which he insists are the foundation for responding to outbreaks of infectious diseases. In the UK, British Health Secretary Matt Hancock blamed a recent spike in COVID-19 cases on young people neglecting social distancing rules, warning the UK risks following other European countries in experiencing a new wave of infections. While he said he was optimistic a vaccine would be available by the end of the year, he added the most likely scenario would be early next year, meaning people must continue to obey social distancing rules to reduce transmissions. His comments come after the UK reported nearly 3,000 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday, a 64% spike from the previous day and the highest level since May. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump says a COVID-19 vaccine could be delivered as early as next month, explaining it would be, quote, very safe and effective. Speaking during Labor Day press conference at the White House on Monday, President Trump praised his administration's vaccine development initiative through private-public partnership. While President Trump has said numerous times that a vaccine would be available by the end of 2020, his latest comments seem to suggest it could be ready before November 3rd election. As part of a plan to increase the supply of new homes in the capital, the South Korean government will pre-distribute a total of 60,000 public housing unit subscriptions by 2022. The government is offering pre-subscriptions so that people can actually get a sense of improving household situation in the capital. Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi announced at a ministerial meeting on Tuesday that the initiative will start in July of next year. 30,000 housing subscriptions are to be made available next year, and with the same number being offered again in 2022. These are among the 240,000 public housing units to be supplied in the Greater Seoul area by 2022. Small steps are better than no steps at all. That's what South Korea's unification minister is saying regarding inter-Korean cooperation, as communication between the two Koreas remain minimal to non-existent. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
Seoul's unification minister Lee In-young is once again calling for inter-Korean cooperation through, quote, small steps. He explained Monday that the two Koreas can facilitate peace through areas that are linked to the public's lives and well-being, such as public health and disease prevention. Stressing that small steps are better than no steps at all, Lee noted the importance of incremental exchanges.
Under the leadership of the two Koreas, we shall usher in an era of complete, verifiable, and irreversible peace by cooperating with the international community.
This, he said, will ultimately help establish a peace process on the Korean peninsula and resume stalled talks between Pyongyang and Washington. However, it's left to be seen whether the North will respond to the small steps proposed by Lee, as the regime has bluntly criticized Seoul for not abiding by the inter-Korean agreement. Lee's remarks last week that he believed Seoul and Washington could one day replace their military Cold War alliance with a peace alliance has ignited controversy. The U.S. State Department responded directly, stressing the alliance goes far beyond their security ties to include cooperation on areas of the economy and human rights. Moon Jung-in's special security advisor to President Moon Jae-in raised questions against the comments made by Washington.
I cannot understand why the State Department has made such a critical comment. It's unfortunate, as it looks like the U.S. has a biased view of Minister Lee In-young.
Seoul's unification ministry explained later through a formal response that it's an undeniable fact that the alliance began as a military alliance but developed into a value-shaped alliance based on democracy and pursuit of a market economy. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Far from gradually getting better, U.S.-China relations are just becoming even more tense and complicated. The latest flare-up is over the renewal of journalists' visas. Our Kim Da-mi has the details.
Beijing is delaying the renewal of press cards for at least 5 journalists working at several U.S. media outlets. An organization of foreign correspondents in China said Monday they are vulnerable to expulsion in apparent retribution for Washington's targeting of Chinese reporters based in the U.S. China claims the press cards are still being processed, insisting it will not affect their reporting and life in China.
For us, all the options are on the table, and the U.S. knows that very well. If the U.S. insists on going down the wrong path and continuously making mistakes, China will have to take the necessary and legitimate responses to firmly safeguard its legitimate rights.
In March, the Trump administration slashed the number of Chinese nationals working in the U.S. offices of Chinese state-owned media outlets from 160 to 100. China then expelled a dozen American reporters working for the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal. Waiting for their lapsed work visas to be renewed, the Chinese journalists have been allowed to stay in the U.S. for a 90-day grace period, which expires in early November. In a Labor Day holiday weekend press conference on Monday, President Trump lashed out on China and his challenger in the November 3rd election, Joe Biden.
They took advantage of stupid people. And Biden's a stupid person. You know that. You're not going to write it. If Biden wins, China wins because China will own this country.
Mentioning a possible decoupling with relations with China, President Trump further hinted at turning the screw on China and suggested the U.S. would not lose money even if the two countries no longer did business. 김다미, Arirang News.
The world #1 tennis player Novak Djokovic was disqualified from the U.S. Open on Sunday after a tennis ball he smacked in frustration accidentally struck one of the line judges in the neck. The official cried out and collapsed to the ground before Djokovic rushed to check on her. She recovered and got up few minutes after being struck. The Serbian tennis star pleaded he had not intended any harm, but his fate was sealed. A U.S. Open tournament referee later said the facts were clear and there was no other option but to disqualify him. The 33-year-old later apologized for his behavior in a social media post. Typhoon Haishen, which swept across South Korea on Monday, dropping hundreds of millimeters of rain, has left 2 people missing and 5 injured. At least 110 houses across the nation have either been destroyed or flooded. The southern island of Jeju saw the most rain, with some areas receiving nearly 550 millimeters, ruining large areas of farmland. In addition, at the Wolsang nuclear power plant in Gyeongju, Gyeongsang-Buk-do province, the turbines in 2 of its reactors stopped working. Fortunately, there was no sign any radioactive materials leaked.
Good morning. Finally, we'll get relief from the wild weather we have been seeing, but eastern parts of Gangwon-do province and coastal regions could feel the after effects of Typhoon Haishen. Also, parts of Gangwon-do and Gyeonggi-do province could see lingering rain through this morning, while the Jeollado provinces can expect sporadic showers from noon into tonight. Well, yesterday marked Baekno, the 3rd autumn season term out of 6, and we're definitely having much cooler mornings and evenings these days. But this afternoon, though, highs will rise 2 to 7 degrees higher than yesterday, while hovering below the norms for the central region, while southern provinces will have warmer highs this afternoon. So Seoul will get up to 25 degrees, while Gwangju and Busan will get up to 28 degrees Celsius this afternoon. There's nationwide rain for the middle of the week, while eastern parts of Gangwon-do province will see sporadic rain through the weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
parasite.
Arirang, what matters?
안녕하세요. 한국에서 온 26살 대학생 김영진입니다. 제가 코로나에 걸렸다가 완치하고 태어난 사람으로서 또 그 전 과정을 유튜브에 공유한 사람으로서 여러분들께 코로나 재확산이 진행된 이 시점에서 꼭 도움이 드릴 수 있는 영상을 찍을 수 있을 것 같아서 이 영상을 찍게 되었습니다.